Very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Farm the City. My name is Michelle, and I'm the co-founder of Rooftop Republic Urban Farming, and your host for today. When we first started Rooftop Republic 6 years ago, it came from the fact that my co-founders and I loved growing our own food, and we wished for ourselves and others to be able to do the same in places where we live, work, and play. Together with the team at Rooftop Republic, we were able to provide farm management, farm design, consultancy, management, and education and workshops for many building owners, companies, restaurants, schools, and homes. And in the past 6 years, we have been able to set up more than 70 projects in Hong Kong and in China, as well as transformed more than 80,000 square feet of dense built-up environments and spaces into lush, productive urban gardens. At the same time, we have also engaged more than 20,000 people in the fun of urban farming. With 70% of the world's population living in urban areas by 2050, our knowledge of how food comes to our table will be further limited, and more effort will be needed to help maintain our well-being, our health, as well as our community connections in this hyper-urban as well as compartmentalized environment. At the same time, buildings are also pressured to decarbonize and achieve net zero by the same deadline. While achieving these targets require a complex process with multiple stakeholders along the entire value chain, is there an opportunity with connection for food, rethinking agriculture, to play a more proactive role towards these goals, and how do we get there? And that is the objective of today's event, Farm the City, to envision future green cities and be an open platform for sharing experiences, our learnings, and creating dialogue between different stakeholders who each play a part to make projects not just successful, but also sustainable. We're really excited and very honored to have a lineup of speakers and panelists today who will be sharing on their own personal journey of urban farming across the region, as well as right here at home in Hong Kong. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all our supporting partners. We have the Business Environment Council, we have DBS Bank Hong Kong, Jones Lang LaSalle, Garage Society providing this beautiful venue for our live streaming, as well as our media partners, BCI Asia and Wall Street Journal Plus, for making this event possible. We hope that you will leave this event feeling both inspired as well as challenged by the opportunities and the potential of urban farming. And we hope that this will be a starting point for many ideas, conversations, collaborations, as well as urban farming projects to come. I would now like to introduce our very first speaker of the event, Assistant Professor Pranisa Boonkham. Pranisa is a lecturer at the Landscape Architecture program at Thammasat University, where Asia's largest rooftop farm is located. Pranisa has been involved in the entire development and growth of urban farming within the university, starting from its earliest projects, of which successes led to its belief in its impact, and the building of the latest and the newest one, which is the largest of them all. Let's hear from Pranisa on the journey of urban farming in the university.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really pleased and honored to be a guest speaker for this event, Farm the City. And today, I'm going to tell the stories about Thammasat University urban farming. We started this project a couple of years ago, starting from the early campus, the original campus in the city. But the big project is right here at Rangsit campus. And our urban farm related to SDGs. And we are hoping that we can work on the urban farm and get more than just the food. And the story we're sharing with you is like, I cannot say that it's totally finished or completely successful because it's an ongoing process. And I hope this will be a sharing experience, and hopefully that I can get some questions or maybe comments or advice that we can work on our projects and make it better and sustainable for the future. So let's starting from getting to know Thammasat University. It's located in Thailand, Bangkok, which is the large city, is around 10 times larger than Singapore city, 7,700 square kilometers with 14 million people. I think New York City is about, New York metropolitan area is about 12,000 square kilometers. So this is the picture of Bangkok urban area, and Thammasat University is the university for the people. We are the second oldest university in Thailand. The first campus is right in the city center, right here. I hope you can see my mouse right there. And it's a small one, it's only 8 hectares. But 50 years after we established the first campus, we got another one, the larger one, 288 hectares, located in Rangsit area, which is the northern suburb of Bangkok. It's 50 kilometers from the first one, by the way. Let's zoom in to see what the urban pattern look like in each campus. The first one in Thar Prajan is in the historic urban core. It's right next to the Grand Palace and by Chao Phraya River, which is the major river of the history of Thailand. You can see that there's almost no green space in this area. It's really dense, and a lot of people come here, tourists and the local people, and there are a couple of universities and government organizations. It's very lively, but not much of the space. In contrary, the second one is huge and is located in what used to be a rice paddies area. 100 years ago, this landscape was transformed to be rice paddies that feed Bangkok people. But 50 years later, the new urban planning of Bangkok say that this area north of Bangkok should be transformed to the industrial and commercial area, and also the expansion of residential zone. So you can see that our campus is located in the middle of agriculture area next to Chao Phraya River also, and to the east side of the campus is industrial estate, commercials, and residential. So it's totally different context. But the same problem that everyone has, no matter they live in the city or live in the suburb of Bangkok, is that our lifestyle actually changed a lot in the past 100 years. Bangkok, not just Bangkok, Thailand, Thai people used to be live sustainable lifestyle. We grow vegetable, we grow rice, and we have our own food. We don't have to buy food. We are agriculture country. But later on, when the city expand and everyone live in the city and live the consumer lifestyle, we have to work and earn money just in order to buy food. And we go to supermarket, go to the large vegetable market just to buy, this little amount of food. So that's a problem because it's not easy to live in the city, and the food come from somewhere else far away from our city, and we don't really know if that food is safe for us. So we have this little green empty space in Thar Prajan campus, which is the original campus, the small one that is in the city center. We think that it's okay, people can come and walk along the riverside, but it's quite useless. So we have this idea. We started the idea to change from the decorative landscape to edible landscape. And from the empty green space to the place that people love. We changed it to the little urban farming right next to the riverside. Um, and everyone loves it. At the beginning, some people kind of think that, oh, what are we doing here? Why are we changing this pretty lawn to growing vegetables? But we had this event at the beginning. We have students from the university, from high schools around, and we have the local business that work with the organic food, and they come and starting this event with us, help preparing the plots and cooking together. This is our vice rector right here. So everyone had fun, and it's starting the new idea that we can grow food right in the middle of the city, and in a university or in other public area, public organization, they can also start doing the same thing. So that's our hope at that time, that we can be the first to start something that make change to the society. Later on, our staff, like the gardeners, and that used to just take care of the flowers and trees in the campus, they started having fun with proposing new kind of vegetables and plants, especially the one that used for Thai food, because they grow so well. And whenever they see like empty green space or the useless, underutilized green space, they will propose to plant something. For example, the bananas that you can see in the right hand side of the picture. This is right next to the academic buildings. And nowadays we always got these bananas and give to everyone, the directors, the professors, and the staff. Some of these we give to the canteen. 2 years later, we move on to a larger campus in Rangsit area. Um, because this is a huge campus and the context and everything is different from Thapatan. So we try to start with something easy. We work with a small area that's right next to the administrative building. Is the little underutilized green space right here. So we just ask the people, the staff who work in the admin buildings, and who wants to join us for this first project. So there are a group of people come and join and help preparing the plot, clearing the area, and plant vegetables for the first crop together. And when they get to harvest it, their first crop, they're really happy, like this lady right here. They take them home, and for this one, we have like evening market at the hospital zone. We also have hospital at this campus. And we have market at the dormitory zone. So some of these vegetables that the staff grow, they just bring and sell at the evening market. So that's become a small income, extra income for them. And some of them just take home for their families. Okay, now let's come to the major project. After we start with small areas, we get on to this big project, which is the rooftop urban farming at Boy Centenary Hall. It's the new building that's located right in the very important spot of the Rangsit campus. This is our campus, 288 hectares. The admin buildings that I showed you earlier, actually way in the back of the campus right here, because at the beginning, 35 years ago, we only have these mini buildings right there. And the access road to the campus was the side street right here. But later on in 1998, we hosted the Asian Games. So we got all this new gymnasium building, a lot of big building and the expansion of streets system, including these two main street that's created an access to the campus. But after the Asian game, it was an empty access. It's just a sport fields and nobody comes here because we all have academic building right in the back. So I got to work on the master plan of the campus 6 years ago. So my idea was to infill the access and put something that everyone wants to use, and it's represent Thammasat University in the second century. And the most important spot, we located this building, Boy Centenary Hall, Center for People and Sustainability. Because here at the suburb, people have other problem other than political issues. They don't have enough facilities. They don't have place for recreation. They don't have other lifestyle. It's just like in the suburb that if you want something in variety, you have to go in the city. So Thammasat University have to provide those extra things that will make everyone live with happiness in the suburb area. So this is the building with libraries, concert halls, and exhibition centers, also the museum and event space, and the park. In the future, we're going to have a public park right in the front right here. So what should be on the roof of this building to make it useful for everyone and sustainability? So we look at the context of Rangsit area, and I told you earlier that it's a rice paddies from 100 years ago. It's in the history of Thailand, but now we don't have that much left. And in our campus, luckily, we still have one piece of land that is the existing rice paddies from the past. And it's a cultural landscape of Rangsit field. So we want to bring this spirit to public, because not that many people get to walk into this area. It's kind of like the last piece of green space left, and it's not very easy to access. So we say, why don't we bring this story to this building? But the concept of the rooftop as a urban farming didn't start at the very beginning. At first, we just think about this has to be a green building. So we need to have a green roof to reduce the heat that come into the buildings and absorb some runoff from the rainfall. So starting with the idea of just plant lawn, the green lawn, just to absorb the heat and the water. But then because the roof is sloped, so you cannot really use the lawn in a very steep sloped area. And lawn is really high maintenance. So we think that, okay, maybe we add a little bit more of money and we make it a park. Plant flowers, trees, so people can come and enjoy their evening. But then again, we have to take care of the flowers, but it's only for beautiness. Can we make it even more useful? Then we ended up with this idea. We're going to plant something that's pretty and also edible. And that's the reason why we're growing vegetables right on the rooftop. The concept is from the local wisdom of Thai people in the northern part. They live in the hillside, but they still need to eat rice and grow rice. So they changed the landscape as a rice terraces to slow down the water and get flat areas to grow rice. So we did the same thing. The designer, the landscape architect, Ms. Gotchakon Wara Akom, she proposed this idea and we all loved it. So this is the other main purpose that we want from this roof is to slow down the runoff from rainfall, because Bangkok is always have flooding problem. If any of you ever come visiting, when it's raining, because we paved the city with a hardscape and the water cannot go through anymore. So what we do here is slow down the water. The runoff will have 20 times longer before they run down to the ground and go to the pipe. And during those time, they get absorbed into soil and the plants drink this water. So we don't have that much amount of water left when it came down to the pipe in the ground. So that helped a lot, and we hope that this will be the example for other places that we can think about this issue every time that they develop the building or any construction in the city. Back to the planting of vegetable and rice. This is the picture from the first time that we plant the first crop. We wanted to show everyone that with this 30 centimeters of soil depth, you can actually plant anything from rice to vegetable to herbs or flowers or whatever you want, except the large trees. The location of the trees, we have deeper soil, about 1 meters, but in other area it's only 30 centimeters. This become a learning space for student and staff. We host maybe 3 times of the activities before the COVID came and just paused everything. We have students from the agriculture program. They help us and other students and learn how to plant things. And everyone can start learning what they eat in the canteen, what kind of vegetables and how to grow them and how much time they need before harvesting each of the plants, the vegetables. We also work with the private business. This is the telecommunication company called named AIS. They want to do the experiment about smart farming, use IoT sensor and controller to monitor the plants grow on the rooftop. And you can look at that and control it from the cell phone. But again, because of the COVID, we started this project and then now it just wait to resume again after we can open the campus again. So this is the food that we may get if we can choose to plant rice, herb, and vegetables, or we can have 133,000 meals per year if we plant rice for this whole area of 70,000 square meters. So this is what I told you is one of the things that we have to experiment. Right now, we just plant herb and vegetables because rice, when you grow rice in small area, it's actually not very easy to take care of and to harvest. So we choose to grow vegetables right now. We also expand this project to the rice paddies, the existing rice paddy areas that I told you earlier. So we have a large area of local food source. We don't want our people to have to order food or eat food that deliver from the northern of Thailand. That the logistic of transporting food also increase the CO2 emission. So to have our own food grow right here in the campus also help that issue. So this was the rice paddies area that I told you earlier, the existing one. It was quite underutilized. So we changed it to the vegetable farm and we got a lot of products out from this space and sell it to the canteen, to the people who selling food in the canteen. Instead of they have to go and buy vegetable from, who knows where. We offer them this choice and the price, we control the price to be the same as the market outside. So they have choice that they can buy it from us. And our food, we can guarantee that there is no chemical. We also have to work with the organic waste from our farm and the other landscape area. So we make it into organic compost and including the leftover food from the canteen also. And we use it for fertilizers all over the campus. And right now, before the COVID, we start planting vegetable and herbs everywhere that we have space, right on the street and walkway, by the tennis court, in the small green space of dormitory, or on the side of the building, like this one. These are all vegetable. You can eat this too. And when we have events, instead of decorating with flowers, we use the rice in small pots in this picture here. So this is so much fun to get to be creative of how we can use the vegetable and replacing all other grains that it's just decorative. And the last thing that we did before during the COVID is that we start to have these vegetable bouquets and baskets and use it instead of flowers. When we have guest speakers or we want to, we in this picture, we Thammasat operate the field hospital for COVID-19, and there are a lot of medical staff that work there 24 hours every day. So someone ordered, like actually our vice rector, he ordered the vegetable basket from our farm and delivered to the hospital, the field hospital, and so that our medical staff can have healthy food while they have to work so hard for everyone. So this is another thing. You know, flower bouquets is just pretty, and you have to throw it away, and it's consumes so much energy and it's create waste, even though it's organic waste. But if we give vegetable bouquets, everyone can enjoy the fresh and safe food, and it can be pretty if you have creativities. And the staff actually has so much fun. These are the office staff, you know, they work with the paperwork and documents in the office. And when we get some big orders for the vegetable basket, then they came and help everyone. And it's so much fun. So this is a story about Thammasat urban farming. Is I would like to say is the gift for all of us. Is not just to get food in the city, but it's an activity and a social space for people. And most important of all, we care so much about every group of people in Thammasat, you know, like these gardeners. And I told you about the cleaning ladies and the security guards. They have so much fun and happiness when they get to grow this vegetable and take them home, and they feel that we care about them. So this small or large green space that we transform from the decorative landscape to urban farm, it gives us more than just the food, and it's the representative of um, the sustainable future that we try to create at Thammasat University. And we did that because we know that there is no planet B, and we have to live together in our planet, and we have to take care of the planet in every aspect. So getting back to the SDGs, we're trying to tie everything to the 17 SDGs. And we think that at least right now, our urban farming is not just number two, the zero hunger, but we also provide the good health and well-being from the safe food, no chemical, and it's the recreational space that everyone can come and enjoy and for stress relief. And because of we provide local food source and we plant more green space that can absorb CO2 and reduce the amount of CO2 from the food transportation. I think we also can help with the SDG number 13, climate action, including the slowdown of runoff that, we have rainfalls and we have the unpredictable weather these days. And number 10 is something that I think not many other urban farming will think about this one, is reduce inequalities. As I told you, this project it's not gonna be run by staff all the time. Our plan, our project that we had thought about at the beginning is that we're gonna let people who want to join the program, they can come and they can take small plots for their own. And we will provide them with maybe just the basic tools for maintaining the plots and maybe some seeds for the beginning. And they can grow those vegetables by themselves so that we don't have to go and hire or let the gardeners come and work on this. We will let people who want to have extra income in the campus, they work on this one and they get food they can take home or they can sell it to the market. Um, that's what we're trying to do and take the most out of our urban farm. The management is not easy, and we are facing challenges every day. And there were some people that might think that this is an impossible thing to do. How can you maintain this large area of vegetable? They may be right that it's not easy, but for Thammasat sustainability team, we don't think that those obstacles will stop us. We just think that it's a challenge and we're gonna go on and solve every problem and adjust the management, the operation, and the species of plants and everything. We'll learn from this and we'll make it better and better. And eventually it's gonna be sustainable and be the model for other people in Bangkok or Thailand urban area that they can start doing their own things like this. Okay, I think that's it for the story that I want to share. Hopefully, you get some ideas, or maybe if you have comments or questions, you just ask, and I will be happy to answer or to share with you with your comments. Thank you so much.
Test. Thank you very much, Pranisa, for the very informative presentation. I really love how you've captured the essence of Thailand's very rich agricultural history into the design of the farm, but at the same time, you've also taken into consideration solutions for the climate issues that Thailand is facing. So now's the time to share some questions with you, and we really want to learn more about this project and how it came to be. So the very first question that has come in is very important. It's the money question. So how was all of this funded? And the fact that the vegetables were provided at the same market price, is this kind of an indication that this was more of like a non-profit initiative?
Okay, thank you for the questions. About the funding of this project, at the beginning, it's the construction cost is included in the building construction cost, including the first crop of the vegetable farm. But then the next step, which is actually right now, because we're just starting the operation for like a year and it's in the COVID situation. So the operation cost right now came from the landscape maintenance budget, which is we have, say we have garden, we have trees, we have shrubs everywhere, and we have a landscape maintenance budget. So we use that part to take care of the vegetable plots right now. But that's, I can tell you that it won't be easy if we try to do that all the time. And that's not our plan. But our business model that we are looking at, that actually because of the COVID and everything, so it hasn't really started, is that, as I told you earlier, that we'll have divided these plots and have staff and students maybe to work on their plots, and they can sell to the canteen, and the university will be sort of the coordinator, and then some of the income that they got, a small part of that will be used for the basic equipment, such as maybe some seeds and some equipment. That's the first step that we will try to do, but it's not gonna be like a big profit or anything. It will just be non-profit. But our middle term plan and long term plan, we're gonna explore the market with the herbs and maybe some plants that can use for medicals or for in the restaurants that can cost can give us more of the income from the special kind of plant, and we are working with the medical school on that too. So hopefully that at least the operation cost will be even, and we don't have to kind of like use the university budget all the time. But anyway, that's still an experiment, and we're gonna work on it, and then we'll hopefully we'll get it done. I hope that's answered the question. Yeah, and it's definitely
Thank you very much,
started with
Pranisa.
nonprofit.
And now for the next question. It's about also like the challenges in operating the farm. So, building the farm was one stage, but then there was also a very, the next stage of how to keep the farm running. And you mentioned about challenges during your presentation. Would you be able to share the most difficult 1 to 2 challenges you have faced in the management of the project?
Okay. The challenges, actually, there are so many challenges. I can say like the main challenge that that we are facing and we can share is that I think it's about maintenance of the farm, because it's, first of all, it's not like a private owned farm, it's a public space. We also want it to be a public space. So we cannot limit the access to this rooftop. We don't want to. So how would I say that? So let's start from that maintenance, the vegetable plots. Everyone knows if you plant food, plant vegetable before, that the plots will not be pretty all the time. It has to have cycle, you have to change crops, and you have to wait for the soil and everything to be ready for the next planting time. So our rooftop cannot be pretty every day like a flowering garden. And sometimes people don't understand, and they're hoping that they will come out and they will see everything flourish. And so we first of all, we have to make it look okay most of the time. And because we want it to be non-chemical, so sometimes there are weeds, and sometimes there are some not totally uniform species of plants that we use. So it's kind of like a different type of beautiness that some people just don't understand that it's seasonal. So the solution is that, yeah, we have to make sure that we take care of it quite well. And then the second thing is that we have to somehow educate people that they understand that if you want this kind of landscape, you get food, you get healthiness, and you sometimes maybe you have to trade off with some beauty that the conventional of the beauty that you've seen. Another thing that related to the maintenance of this urban farm that is also a public space is that it's like in the flower garden, that some people come and then they just pick out the flowers. We have the same problem. We just pick out fruits, vegetables, pumpkins, and eggplants and everything. And if it's just a little, the one, it's fine. We just let them. But sometimes I don't know who they are, but they just come and take a lot of things all the time. So this is another challenge that we think that we don't want to restrict the access to the roof. So maybe we hope that after we run the program, that we have the staff and the students involved in planting on this plot. Then we'll have some sort of ownership by taking action, like people come and take care of their plots. Then the visitors can see that these vegetables are not for everyone to pick out. They can just come and we'll have sign for them that if you are interested in having the products of this garden, you can contact here and there, and hopefully in the near future, then people who come here, they will know that how they should interact with the fruit and the vegetable that we have here. This is something that I think is very important for whoever wants to do urban farming. You have to prepare for this kind of challenge, and but don't give up. Yeah, we'll find a way to fix it soon. Mhm.
Much. Thank you so much, Pranisa, for sharing all of that. I think there's indeed a lot of challenges in operating an urban farm, and I think we definitely need to consider all of these factors before embarking on one. But I think also your project and many other projects have proven that it isn't also impossible, and it really takes a lot of partnerships to make it happen. So thank you very much, Pranisa, and I would like to now introduce our next speaker. So our next speaker is Stefano, and he's from Italy. But he has spent many years working across China and Hong Kong. He's the Associate Principal and Regional Sustainability Leader of International Award Architecture Studio Woods Bagot. And he drives their agenda on sustainability and wellness in their design projects. Today, we're very honored to have Stefano share one of such projects, a very successful case study from Singapore that also integrates urban farming as one of its key elements. Let's welcome Stefano to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Is this okay? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. It's a very important topic to discuss together, and I hope that we're going to be able to provide interesting conversation. The previous presentation was very, very good, and it's going to be hard to top it, but I'll do my best. So let's start with giving credit where credit is due. This presentation was curated by two people. I developed it together with my colleague, Shohan Chan from Adelaide, Australia, who's provided for the most amount of the research and data that provides the backbone for the presentation itself. A couple of words about us before we dive into the case studies and the conversation that will follow. Shohan and I work for Woods Bagot. Woods Bagot is an architecture design company located internationally across 4 different continents. We root our design practice in what we call people architecture, which is a strategy that applies to all of our projects, focused on delivering design for and the people that we aim to design for, around their behaviors and their culture. As I said, we work across 4 continents, 17 studios, 1,000 different practitioners and experts, from designers to interior designers to architects and urban planners. And we aim to root all of our design around the idea of sustainability, of regeneration, and designing for cities that are prepared to tackle climate change and create a better future for our communities in the future. We work together with IRA. IRA is our consulting service that focuses on predominantly user strategy, urban systems, and brand experience, and provides a whole lot of the research that we share with you in presentations like this one. Shohan, my colleague, is part of IRA. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to start, after a little introduction, talking about our case study, the urban farm on top of our design for the mixed-use development Funan in Singapore. I would like to use that project to share with you the design process that goes behind projects of this sort, but at the same time also generating a conversation that expands beyond the single urban farm and tackles food systems in a larger scenario, and what's the relationship between urban farming and climate change, and then eventually imagining what the future of urban agriculture might be for architects as well as for everybody. I was born 43 years ago in Tuscany, Italy, in a place close to these hills. And so the notion for me about agriculture and architecture being symbiotically connected into one system is very rooted since my early years. Where I come from, you eat what you see growing right next door. So this idea of architecture and nature completely connected has always stayed with me. And I've also seen it represented in the first projects I've done for this studio in Florence, Archi Associati. For example, this winery is completely covered by the vines that produce the wine that gets aged inside. So I was a very young draftsman when I was working for this project, but it generated that kind of interest in me about how nature and architecture can be connected. And when I moved to Hong Kong almost a decade ago, which is a very different landscape and environment, but I saw how nature seeps through the urban jungle and people find every possible little corner that they can find in order to get connection to natural system, to growing things, creating small and big urban farms across the city. Luckily, having people like Rooftop Republic helping them, having the right tools to grow things in Hong Kong. So when we started working for Funan, I was very delighted to see that the studio provided this idea of integrating an urban farm as a center component of this mixed-use development. So what is Funan? Funan is a mixed-use development right in the center of the city of Singapore. It's at the connection point between different districts, actually. It's a mixed use that comprises 6 floors of retail, 4 above ground and 2 below ground. And an additional 3 floors of podium that are predominantly workplace, but also integrate culture, a theater, for example, a large atrium. And then on top of the rooftop of the 7th floor, there are a number of amenities, gardens, the big urban farm, as well as playgrounds and different places for people to gather. And then 3 towers, 2 workplace tower, and 1 service apartment. So it's a very mixed-use, integrated system right at the very heart of the city. Difficult to integrate nature in something so dense. The success for the project were several. Amongst them, I would like to mention the vision that the client provided since the very beginning, asking the big questions, the difficult ones, and an engagement of all of the consultants also from the very beginning. This project was designed a few years ago, so the fact that we were able to communicate and collaborate from the very start with every stakeholder was very, very significant. We focused also on this idea of anticipating the disruption in the market, creating innovation to provide a picture of what kind of future urban environment might be. And designing through evidence, through data, in order to substantiate our design with actual facts and data. And of course, everything around people, understanding what's the behaviors and the culture and the empathetic approach to space across every aspect of the design. Funan has won a lot of awards already, even from before it opened. It opened in 2019, and since then it's keep on winning awards of every single sort. What is it really that is different about this project? At the very center of the project, there is this idea of a tree of life, which is a component, a structural component, that combines a number of different laboratories, workshops, a lot of wellness activities as well, creating a center identity for the whole development, surrounded by a civic hub, and then with offices and residential facilities around it. This idea, and this is very important for everything that we're talking about today, this idea starts from conversations and from collaboration, months of conversations and collaborations, of sharing opinions, of asking the right questions, trying to find the right solutions to provide a solution that was not the obvious one, but rather the right one when we designed this project. This is how it looks like from the arrival point, from the 2 streets that it borders on both sides. You can see how it's not your usual shopping center, but rather it opens up into this kind of civic core right in the middle, suggesting people to walk through. And at the very center, there's this big civic space, like a market square almost in Italy, where you have cafes and restaurants and different pods, we call them passion clusters, that represent that ingenuity and creativity that is so specific and typical of Singapore. Now, one of the aspects that was at the very center of the core identity of the project was designing around this idea of wellness. Again, a few years ago, it wasn't the kind of trendy word that is today. But we started researching the market, started understanding what does wellness really mean in terms of architecture design. So we placed a a bike path that crosses the whole project. Open 24/7 and allowing the architecture itself to represent physically an attitude towards well-being, fitness, alternative transport. There is a 3 floors high climbing wall that wraps around the structure of the Tree of Life, right in the middle of the main atrium, for example. Again, a very popular attraction. And again, it's something that visually relates this idea of wellness and well-being to the architecture itself. And of course, the urban farm. What's more wellness related than growing vegetables and food on top of your own rooftop? So what is about this urban farm that is special? Well, urban farms in Singapore are not a new thing. The government in Singapore is very strong in greening the city as much as possible, providing any opportunity for green walls, green roofs, and also urban farms to be integrated within the urban environment, within the dense city. You reach the urban farms of Funan coming out of the shopping center at the 4th floor onto the rooftop, onto this particular terrace that you see over here. On your right-hand side, have a very lush green wall covering basically 3 floors, the side of the theater that I was talking about before. And as you get out of the mall, you can see on the bottom right corner of this image, you start walking 3 floors up. Very beautiful views of the city all around you. You walk next to the green wall and you end up on top of the theater where the urban farm is located. The first thing that you get surrounded by is a number of species of fruit trees or vegetables that are not just there for exhibition. Of course, they feed in a strategy of farm to table, they feed the restaurants of the shopping center itself. But it goes a little bit beyond that. Like every single plant, it's somehow tagged. There are explanations about what kind of plant that is, what kind of fruit is or vegetable is provided by that plant, in which kind of season. So there is this idea of educating the visitors and the public. There are lots of students that go there in order to recognize that this is a living system. It's not just a green roof. It's not just pure decoration. It's something that requires understanding and knowledge. And there are these 3 buildings right next to it. They are, at that time, it was quite experimental. It's kind of a circular model of 3 different kinds of farming, a microgreens farming, a mushroom farming, and a fish farming, all perfectly connected with each other so that the waste of one generate nutrients for the next one, basically. All powered by solar panels, so absolutely responding to that idea of sustainability and circularity. But let's look at it. The audio is... I hope you liked the video. It's a way for us to bring you right through the journey of exploring Funan and entering the urban farm on the rooftop. So as I was saying, the urban farm sits on top of the podium's rooftop. It's around 5,000 square feet, which provides enough food for a couple of restaurants in the mall. From the top view, here you can see 2 pictures next to each other, where the arrival, on the right-hand side, you arrive and you start walking around let's call it the circular farm, the 3 buildings that provide indoor farming. You have fruits and vegetables growing all around you. And then you can keep on walking and go to the next area, for still urban farm, and then eventually you end up being the football playgrounds and the other amenities of the rooftop. Here you can see other pictures of the urban farm. On the left-hand side are a few pictures of the indoor farming components, and on the right side, pictures of the outdoor farm. So there is another thing about this. We realized that an urban farm is pretty much, is very much an expression of the city it's located in. Not only as a matter of choosing species that are native of that particular location, but as a resemblance of its surrounding, of its neighborhood as well. From the top of the urban farm, from the top of the podium of Funan, you have this commanding views of the whole city around you, which, in our opinion, create the perfect scene for exploring what kind of products are grown natively in that particular location. I hope that you enjoyed this brief introduction to our project and to the urban farm. And now I would like to expand this conversation a little bit more. After COP26, which just ended a couple of weeks ago, we all heard conversations about 2030, 2050 challenges, about decarbonization, how the urban farms of this kind fit into this conversation is something that I would like to expand upon and see if we get to any answers. So the question at the beginning of this conversation is about what is the real impact of an urban farm of this sort? Where do we go from here? We have done a very beautiful urban farm together with consultants, of course, and a very open-minded developer. What do we do now? Is this enough? How does it help fighting climate change? And what needs to happen next? So after we started asking ourselves these questions, we zoomed out a little and started researching a little bit more about food systems and what's the situation today. This is a report on the state of climate action, just released together with COP26 this year, which basically monitors different industries in relation to their commitments to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So agriculture is one of those industries, and none of the topic of the targets of agriculture, the agriculture has set up for themselves, is actually going in the right direction, with some going in the opposite direction that we're supposed to go. So we have a lot of work to do. For example, on the top left corner, you can see how the waste that the agriculture industry produces today, it's twice the amount of waste that needs to be produced in 2030. And the expected lower emissions of the industry is supposed to go lower and lower as it goes closer to 2030 and 2050. Instead, the industry itself is going higher in terms of carbon emissions, so going diametrically opposite in terms of targets for the decarbonization of the sector. Agriculture today, globally, contributes to 24% of global carbon emissions. And from when we started reading this report from this year, of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, it raised a few questions for us, because we realized that there are two very different kinds of agriculture. One that belongs to the large land, industrial process, industrial production, very large farms, and the other one that it's closer to the one that I was expressing to you at the very beginning, where I'm coming from. There is smaller production, smaller agricultural land, to the point that we realized that 70% of all farms are smaller than an hectare, and on 7% of land, but they produce up to 30% of value in products. So there is a big disconnection. And the fact that the system doesn't particularly work that well, we've seen it during the pandemic, when at the first problem that happened worldwide, many supermarkets around the world were emptied of products, and we had to rely on the goodwill of a lot of communities in order to support and in order to provide food security to a lot of areas in the world. So this idea of resilience and this idea of providing a different system starts to seep through. And maybe urban farms, as the one that we have designed in Funan, have something to say about this. We have analyzed post-COVID trends happening all around us. We see locality, we see indoor and outdoor spaces becoming a hybrid new third space in the architecture we design. We see a whole lot more focus around sustainability and biophilia. It's very strong focus around wellness and well-being, health, of course, around and maximizing the value of any outdoor area in function of the whole project, creating rooftop as destination. Now, there is one thing that puts everything together, like one thing that all of these different trends have in common, and that's urban farming. So something like Funan's urban farm is exactly all of these things combined. So we start thinking about there is more to urban farm than just simply providing a few products on top of a shopping center. Can urban farms today become the beginning of a systems change? So the food system, it's something that includes everything from the first production to the manufacture, to the processing and transport, delivery, retail, purchase, consumption, and waste across all of the different foods that are produced in the world. So changing how we see to this system is very important. And understanding that farms, urban farms like the Funan one, like especially like the one in Bangkok in Thammasat University we saw before, are very important in creating two things. In creating resilience, ability of producing food next door that allow for the level of food security that otherwise may be compromised, as we have seen during COVID, and creating a valid decarbonization strategy. So farms naturally absorb carbon from the atmosphere, so they are a very powerful tool for all cities, developments, privates that aim to reach net zero goals in 2030. Of course, scale is an issue, and there are cities such as Melbourne, for example, that are creating strategies at city scale to be able to come to terms with this problem. The food bowl in Melbourne is an idea that surrounds the urban center with a lot of regenerative, sustainable food productions that feed the city. And the city itself has little dots of urban farms which create sort of a network of ecosystems that regenerate, regreen the city, create the possibility for the local ecosystem to thrive. So we came up to a few, I don't know if you want to call them conclusions. It's more about a framework within which to work. We believe that urban agriculture, especially from our point of view as designers and architects, helps us designing projects that will have reduced emissions for sure, that will have a better transport system, so we will not rely to international transport. It's more farm to table, really. Social impact, circular economy, developing local markets, developing the local trust as well, that is very necessary. And then reduce waste, reduce usage of water, creating farms that are self-sustained in terms of water use, renewable energy, and regenerative ecosystems. And if you think about, Funan in itself is a very, call it kilometer zero farming process. There are just 50 meters distance between the tomato that you grow and the tomato that you eat on your plate. In itself is an example. It's a small answer in a way of one of these questions. And we are very well aware that innovation plays a very strong role in all of this. So innovation is what will enable us to not only optimize the quality, reduce carbon footprint related to our urban farms, but also improve the capacity of production so that one of the most important SDGs that we were talking about before, erasing hunger worldwide, can be tackled by a concerted effort across different cities and different regions. So change today looks like this. This is the first step in a direction. It's definitely not the destination in itself. It's about creating farms and regenerative production of food anywhere possible, developing impact in communities, developing technology that allows us to produce quality and quantity as well, and doing all of this in a circular, sustainable manner. So I hope that this conversation today leaves you with an idea that it's really not the job of one singular person. It's not the architects or the designers or the urban farm developers that have all of the solution. It's something that we all need to work together for developing a better city and a better community. And with the expectations of these things to happen, then I'm sure that we're going to have a much more regenerative and green environment in the cities to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefano. So, as a Singaporean myself, I'm really amazed at how Funan Mall has transformed. And I think we're also really glad to see our friends at Edible Garden City featured here. So, yeah, a big hello to you from Hong Kong. So now the questions have come in, and we'd like to, ask Stefano a bit more about this project. So the first one that come in is also a very practical question that we face, and that is, I believe to achieve a project like Funan, you need a developer that already has a people and planet vision. How would you bring these kind of concepts to the more traditional or more profit-centered developers? Essentially, how do you demonstrate the value of the farm and its ROI?
Very good question. Hello? Yes. Very good question. Thank you for providing this question. It's a question that we are asked many times, and from my perspective, the future of our cities and communities doesn't sit exclusively in the hands of the most open-minded people, developers or government, but rather it has to become something that is shared by the larger community. How to get to that point is the big question. So with case studies such as this one, that not only are very beautiful and photogenic and Instagram-worthy everywhere, they also produce value in terms of an attraction for people to visit, as well as the whole farm-to-table kind of system, providing food for the restaurants in Funan. That in itself is a first step into demonstrating that these approaches are valuable for all developers to consider. Of course, there are differences in climate, differences in location, differences in projects as well, in scale as well as target. But it all starts with asking the first questions about what can be done within the budgets and the opportunities presented in order to develop spaces that are dedicated to the community, and in this case, that produce sustainable, regenerative, healthy food for the offer that is provided in a shopping center like this one.
Thank you, Stefano. And there is another question about the products of the farm. Mm-hmm. And how do you establish a market? I guess this is a question that probably many people could, it could be addressed to different stakeholders, I suppose. But from your perspective, how do you establish a market for the distribution of the farm's products? And do you think that it could produce enough income to cover the cost?
In the case of Funan, the farm supplies the restaurants of the mall. So there is a very strong interdependency between what's sold in the restaurant and what is produced on the rooftop of the mall itself. In that particular case, we need to be careful about the local species, what kind of vegetables and fruits grow in Singapore. Luckily, in Singapore, pretty much everything grows, so there is no shortage of variety. But everything has to be designed and implemented accordingly, in accordance to its location and its targets. I believe that relatively small farms like the Funan one, around the 5,000 square feet, are very good for providing value to a single development like Funan. In terms of regional coordination, that's something that needs to be legislated at governance level. The project from Melbourne that I was sharing before is something that comes from the city first, and then has all of the different experts and companies being connected to that particular strategy.
Okay, thank you for that. And we will wrap up one final question, and it's a very interesting one. So if you were to design another urban farm project in the future, what would your urban farm 2.0 look like?
That's a very beautiful question. First of all, let me precise. We designed the architecture project. We didn't design the actual urban farms environment. That's something that companies such as Rooftop Republic provide in coordination with architects. What my urban farm the urban farm of my dreams will look like, I believe is very close to what Thammasat University is actually providing for everybody to see. That urban farm is staggeringly beautiful. It's a very strong statement of what can be done in a mega urban environment like Bangkok. It talks about resilience, it talks about water saving, it talks about all of a very sustainable approach to food production. So I hope that we're going to see a lot more projects of that sort, of that dimension, across all Southeast Asia.
Thank you, Stefano.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And so yeah, I think now we will be transitioning. So thanks very much, Stefano. And we will be transitioning shortly to our next session, which is a panel discussion with some very good panel speakers who have also undertaken urban farming projects in their own capacities and their organizations. But in the meantime, before we get there, we would like to do a sort of like a fun little activity for everyone to cast your vote. So the question that we have to ask everyone is, what would be the topmost reason for implementing urban farming projects, whether it's in your office, your building, or in your home? Like, what would be the top reason? Because you could possibly tick a lot of boxes, but what would be the one, right? And to participate, you can look into the poll function to the right of your screen, and you can click on poll, and the poll will be launched. And we'll share the results at the end of the event. So thanks everyone for participating in the poll. So in our next session, we have invited 4 different panel speakers. They come from very different, very diverse backgrounds, ranging from sustainability to green buildings, to financing, as well as marketing and communication. So I think all of them will have a very unique and different perspective to bring to the table today. So I think before we start, we'd like to maybe do a quick introduction of everyone. Could we start from CF?
Okay, thank you, Michelle, and thanks Rooftop Republic for inviting me to join this exciting panel discussion. This is CF Learn from Business Environment Council. In case you do not know BEC, so I'll give a brief introduction of BEC. BEC actually is a membership-based charitable organization located in Hong Kong, which we believe the business sector is the leader in enhancing the sustainability in Hong Kong. And BEC has three focus areas in these few years. Naming is the climate change, circular economy, as well as the sustainable lifestyle, which all these three elements contribute to the contributing Hong Kong to a net zero city. We are fortunate to partner with Rooftop Republic to set up an urban farm in our BC building. I think that's all my experience, so I'd like to share more later on.
Sure. How about Derek?
Okay. Hello, everyone, and then thanks, Michelle, for inviting me to this panel. I'm Derek from DBS Bank Hong Kong. We are honored to be recently partnered with Rooftop Republic and also Swire Property instead of one of the rooftop farm in building where our office located. So I look forward to having a sharing views with the panel on this subject.
Hi everyone, I'm Patrick from Swire Properties, and I'm taking care of the sustainability matters of the corporate. And as a real estate developer, building sustainable and resilient and low carbon healthy places is part of our core strategy. And we're fortunate to have worked with Rooftop Republic since a very early time to set up urban farms in some of our portfolios, and also like-minded tenants like JLL, DBS. To work on these very interesting engagement projects. So happy to share some experience today and look forward to the panel discussion. Thanks.
Hi, and I'm Tammy. I'm from JLL Hong Kong. So I help run some of the community programs within our organization, and we've been working with Rooftop Republic on a couple of farms that we manage on behalf of clients. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to all of you. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks everyone for the intro. So I think we've heard from Pranisa as well as Stefano earlier. I think they had very different reasons for implementing their projects. So we wanted to hear from you, from your side of the story. So what was the main reason or the driver for implementing an urban farming project in your property or in your company? So I think this is a question for everyone, so anyone can start.
Maybe I make a start. Right. So actually, urban farming forms part of the overall sustainability efforts when we build and design our portfolios, and it helps obviously conserve resources as we recycle the food waste into making some of the compost for the urban farms. And at the same time, it addresses the climate impacts, and also, creating a very nice place for promoting well-beings for the building occupants and tenants. So it's also, how we start our journey is back in 2012, where we have, one of our portfolio in Taikoo Place, where we have a very well-received farm activities and market activities, where we invite a lot of local farmers to actually sell their local produce produced in Hong Kong. So we get to, promote this concept, where the food come from, the food cycle, and, how to live and eat local food, low carbon living. And, this market is very successful, and we rolled out to the many other portfolios in Hong Kong, China, and even Miami in US. And secondly, we started to, what about, building our own urban farm, and then started in 2017, where in Taikoo Place, it was used to be a back of house area. Now we've converted it into a sustainability exhibition area, where we invite a lot of tenants and community members actually to get involved in this exhibition center, and within which there we have set up a urban farm and edible garden with Rooftop Republic, where we can recycle some of the food waste into making compost, at the same time making the space very welcoming to run a lot of workshops. In a single year we can run more than 40 different workshops for our tenants, for building occupants, and also communities. So it was very well received. And thirdly, we also run some urban farms in some of our hotels, where, as some of the speakers mentioned, we have those, from farm to table menu, where the little farms, the chef will pick the freshest herbs and the vegetables to, go into the ingredients of some of the menus. And it was very well received, and we rolled out to, many different hotels in our portfolio. And we find it, it's very successful, and it's important that, we have to continue to integrate this into our business strategy.
Thank you. So for JLL in Hong Kong, we probably started our journey with rooftop farming in 2013. There was a commercial building in Central, an office building where basically the rooftop, we were looking at how we can actually use that rooftop and actually bring some value. So we partnered with Rooftop Republic, and we've been working with them through the years to run this rooftop farm. For us, I think it's more employee engagement and also community engagement. All of our harvests, we actually donate to a local food bank, Feeding Hong Kong, that then goes to the local community kitchens. So it's really a kind of CSR and employee health and well-being kind of angle that we're coming from for this one. Thank you.
Right, I think BC started the journey a little bit later than Smart Properties and JLL. We started the collaboration with Rooftop Republic back to 2018. We installed the urban farm purely for three major reasons. The first one is from the environmental perspective, right? Because installing the rooftop urban farm may help to reduce the solar heat gain on the roof wall. So indirectly reduce the air conditioning loading, and hence reduce the energy used by the air conditioning system. The second one is to enhance the biodiversity, right? We want to be more species to visit, not just human beings, right, but other animals or insects or birds visiting our building, right? So after the introduction of the urban farm at the rooftop of our building, we also observed some of the different species like butterflies, bees, dragonflies, or different kinds of birds that are staying at the rooftop farm. The third one is talking about the health and wellness of the building occupants, right? As Stefano said before, that after the COVID-19, but we set up the farm before the COVID-19, people are more desire to stay outdoors. So the introduction of the urban farm can help our building occupants to alleviate a lot of their working pressures. So they can go to the rooftop farm to stay a while, or even do some of the farming work. I think these are the major reasons that BC to introduce the rooftop farm in our buildings.
Okay, at DBS actually, we target to be like the best bank for a better world. So when we talk about like for a better world, means sustainability is actually a very core element. And then we were actually quite excited when we come across this rooftop project, because we were guided by the three sustainability pillar. Two of three is actually we have to make our best practice sustainable best practices, and also to create a social impact. So and it also ties nicely with our focus on creating a zero food wastage. So it's actually perfect. Our colleagues can actually recycle food waste, and then as a fertilizer, and then be used in the rooftop farm. So everything come in very nicely. And I think there's also a bit of this staff engagement angle, because I understand our colleagues are very excited and very enthusiastic about going to the rooftop and do all this watering, harvesting, and all that. So I guess after all, it's a very meaningful project for us.
Yeah, thanks. I think there's a very lot of very diverse reasons, and I think there are some overlaps, but I can see that as very multiple drivers for that. But while implementing that project, did you face any challenges, or what do you see would be the biggest challenge that you have seen, in the operations and the the running of these urban farms?
Maybe I start first this time, right? Having an urban farm in the rooftop of an existing building is a great challenge, actually, right? First of all, we have to make sure the loading of the roof is capable for introducing such a heavy Not so heavy actually, but it depends, right? So before we start, we collaborate with Rooftop Republic to employ upon a structural engineer to ensure to do the calculation to ensure the loading is all right, right? This is the first thing, right? The second one is talking about the status of the rooftop, because like our building, we have a big space, but it depends. Maybe some other buildings may not have such spacious area that may not be okay for introducing the urban farm. My next challenge is to educate the facility management staff, right? Because they are quite nervous, right? Sometimes when typhoon is coming, and sometimes they may need to do the people control, because we are organizing some of the courses together to let people to visit the farm and the water leakage system. Because we found that because our rooftop may be a little bit old, a few months ago, we do a retrofitting works right now, right? So everything will be better. But in the old time, there's some birds drop the seeds in between the tiles of the rooftop area, which breaks the tiles. That make the management staff even more nervous, because they are afraid the roots of the seeds may damage the waterproofing layer. So I think these are the difficulties that we face, but I think we have overcome them, right?
So with us, I think for JLL, we don't actually own any assets, so we actually property manage on behalf of clients. So it's really kind of similar in terms of, finding the right kind of spaces with rooftops in Hong Kong, because there's not always going to be space to be actually able to have a farm. But it's also, finding the right clients who are looking to engage and be involved in something like a rooftop farm. So it's having that opportunity to have those kind of conversations with landlords or owners and developers about it, and then, kind of working together on that. And so, not everyone is kind of open to that. So yeah, that's probably the challenge from our perspective.
From SWI perspective, I think it's very encouraging to see tenants, really up to the concept, and they really want to do it. So it's not too difficult to find like-minded players to join it. And also Rooftop Republic, in terms of providing the technical support to running the farm, keeping the plant alive. I mean that's very important as well. So, but of course, as a developer, I think one of the challenges is that finding more space and sufficient space for doing more, right? So I think it's particularly difficult for existing buildings, as mentioned, many reasons mentioned by CF. But I think for one of the cases that we find a lot of new opportunities when we redevelop old buildings into new buildings. So taking the Taikoo Place redevelopment. Ongoing, it's a project ongoing now. We put up the one Taikoo Place, and now two Taikoo Place will be developed next year. And and then when we first at the early planning design stage, we actually did a lot of thoughts on how to enhance the microclimate of the region in the planning stage. So we actually able to instead of planning our gross floor area horizontally, where we put some of the GFA vertically, freeing up the space for urban greenery, where we are having an additional, 60,000 square feet of additional green space. So that would, adding up to the existing green space that will around, 35% of the whole Taikoo Place area will be greenery. And that's actually help us to, if we do the CFD modeling, we're seeing that, the local microclimate is getting improvement. It's reducing, the heat island effect, and also reducing the air temperature within that region. So we're creating, a much more comfortable family, comfortable space for the occupants. And at the same time, we also, partnered with Hong Kong U. We did a biodiversity study. Trying to, assess the biodiversity value of this greenery, that will bring to the place. And it's very encouraging to see that, these greenery spaces actually plays a very important role as a wildlife corridor, actually, connecting the wildlife like birds and some butterflies and insects between the Quarry Bay Park, which is along the promenade, with the Quarry Bay Country Park at a hillside. So it's kind of introducing and regenerative biodiversity value into the area. So I think all of these start to tell us there is so much valuable for us to do this urban greenery and urban farming projects in our developments.
Thank you, Patrick. Actually, Derek, do you would like to share?
Maybe a short one,
Sure.
actually. I think what we're hearing about is like a very technical kind of like consideration. I think those are important. But I'm actually try to think from other perspective. It's like how to like keep the running of the rooftop farm in a sustainable manner. Because as I share with you, my colleagues are very excited, in terms of like going to the rooftop farm to do the harvesting and all that. But how about like 6 months or even 12 months down the road? Would they be like equally excited? And how to like really keep the people like going up and do the maintenance and all that? And other than that, it's just I think is not just, for example, the tenant of the building. How can we sort of like give more value to this kind of like project? For example, from educational point of view, is there anything we can sort of like any liaison or connection with the, for example, primary school that the student may come across and then study, and then how to see like really how the plants actually grow, not just like reading the textbook and all that. So I think all these are actually something that intangible, which could give more value to the project and which help it to be run in a sustainable way.
Thank you, Derek. Actually, it's a very good point that you have raised, and I also wanted to maybe ask Tammy and CF, because you've also got engagement from your staff as well as your building occupants. Do you have any ideas or thoughts to maybe keep them engaged, or maybe even attract more new people to be part of all the activities on the urban farm?
I think with us, we've got quite a big workforce at JLL. So we've got, just for head office, we've got like 600-700 people. So in terms of whenever we do like a harvest or a planting, it's always kind of different people that attend. And it's a real education for the people who actually go, because, we've got the people at Rooftop Republic that are actually there, and really just learning about growing vegetables. Like, we don't really think about it on a day-to-day basis when we go to the grocery store or the market, or when we go out to eat, just how long it takes to actually grow food. And we've also had opportunities where we've brought schools up to the farm as well, where we have had that education opportunity to kind of show kids. And we, had one of the local farmers actually talk to them as well. And, I was at that session, and that's when I was kind of really blown away with kind of thinking it takes 3 months to maybe grow some vegetables, but it takes us 2 minutes to just consume it. And we just don't think about that kind of process when we're actually kind of consuming. So, just looking at it from like an education and food waste kind of perspective, it really kind of changed the way I thought about kind of food and how to grow food. So, I definitely think there's opportunities for, engaging the wider community as well when we run these rooftop farms.
Right. Be honest, Derek's point is very valid, right? It's a challenge into how to motivate the staff to visit the urban farm more frequent, or not just one or 2 months later, then nobody will take care of the farm, right? So luckily we have some program with Rooftop Republic to organize some of the urban farm courses for staff during the lunch hour, so that they can have the taste to do the actual farm work, and they can enjoy the food afterwards, right? But the response is very valid. I think we still need to think out how to do the motivation more frequent in order to make the urban farm more lively, right?
Yeah. Thanks, CF and Tammy. And I wanted to go back to something that Derek mentioned. It's quite important, I think, when we do any project that requires, perhaps investment of obviously financial resources as well as time and of course expertise from different parties. So you mentioned sort of like the intangible, and they also mentioned the word like value. So perhaps I'd like to ask, especially from maybe Patrick's perspective as well as CF's perspective, because you are also involved in a lot of like sustainability reports. You're also tracking, for example, metrics against perhaps like green building awards. How do you measure, or how do you justify the ROI of an urban farm?
I guess it is very difficult to justify from pure ROI perspective. Again, it's like just realistically, if you come to the bank today and say, hey, I have a urban farm project, can you lend me the money? Probably the answer is no. Because I think it's quite hard, I think, for the time being, is like to really make it like commercially viable. If you just look at like the, how much you can sell for the harvest, from the rooftop farm, and then versus the maintenance costs and all that. I think it's actually hard to justify for the time being. But I do believe that there's a lot of like qualitative approach. A lot of value that cannot be quantified, put it this way, that come with the urban farm. I mean, as Vivian mentioned about it ties in nicely with the food wastage initiative. I mean, also it helps to reduce carbon emission, for example, and also about the staff engagement, the educational aspect and all that. So I think these are actually something more qualitative that cannot be quantified at the moment. So I guess it might take time. Honestly, I do hope that one day the rooftop farm project can become something is commercially viable. That means that more people will be doing that. I hope that day will come. But having said that, I think there's still a lot of value that attached to the farm project. And interestingly, what we are doing now is actually that because in our job, we are also promoting sustainable financing and sustainable bank product. I think in one of the cases that we are talking to clients actually that we do provide some incentive for the client when they doing the sustainable financing. And that actually the money, this incentive could come in the form of some sponsorship to support their some social project. And this social project could be a rooftop farm project. So we could also tie in nicely with something commercial, but may not be directly coming from an ROI perspective, but I believe there are ways to actually to make it viable commercially, and then I would look forward to see more projects coming along.
Sure. Thanks, Derek. How about CF? You like?
Yeah, same feeling with Derek. Difficult to calculate the ROI, so we just based on the intangible benefit, right? For example, having the urban farm can help to contribute the credit achievement under the BIM Plus assessment, right? That's what we are to maintain the BIM Plus Platinum standard of the building right now. The second one is that we also have some different building tours, right? To let the general public or even some of the professionals to visit our buildings, right? We do have a lot of different green features in our building, right? When we take the participant to the urban farm, they are amazed because they feel that it's quite impossible for existing building to have such big and wonderful urban farm, right? So they feel very happy, right? So I think these are the intangible benefits that we can bring to the different peoples, right? The third one is talking about the indirect electricity reduction, right? That's difficult to be accounted for, right? But we believe that the urban farm can help to reduce some of the solar heat gain that I mentioned before and indirectly reduce our electricity fee. So difficult to account for, but we do believe that there are some benefits of having such a wonderful farm in the rooftop, right?
Yeah, I'll add to that, agree with Derek and CF, it's difficult to quantify, but that doesn't stop us to do it. I mean, obviously, when we have set ourselves a target, every building we build is a green building, it's a platinum certified building. Is that we have the vision that, this is what the world needs and what our tenants needs, And it's obviously, bringing us a lot of returns, having green buildings in all of the stock. And obviously, greenery and urban farming, although, it's not only the requirement under green building, but it's definitely providing a very good platform for us to launch more works on staff engagement and tenant engagement, and that's also related to kind of when we think about our carbon emissions, where we have set ourselves very aggressive science-based target to actually look at our own carbon emissions and also our tenants' emissions. I mean that's an area that we've at the start find very difficult. How can we influence tenants? How we work with them? And actually, urban farming is a very good starting point, a good entry point that we start to talk about the issue of the world and climate change with our tenants. Through the workshops, we start to understand and in fact what the actions and what they can contribute to matter. So it's kind of getting rolled out. When we start to talk to tenants about these are the things you can engage the staff. And then next, we can help you to do, for example, like energy audit in your office. And also we run different programs to help your office or a retail shop to actually reduce the energy and also the carbon emissions. And that comes together, when we try to work with our tenants in addressing their carbon emissions so that, as a community itself, we are also working towards the same goal. I think we can see the value of, bring to it. And it's becoming so important when we do our ESG reporting, sustainability reporting, and we talk to investors, they always ask us about, how do you work with your, tenants and downstream lease access, and depth area. So you can just kind of work alone. I mean, we need to engage. We need to do more, and urban farming and greenery is just provide such a good platform for others and to engage this different interesting dialogue and conversation. So we can really see the value of doing it.
May I have a follow-up question with Patrick, right? So you have only have one roof, right? But there are so many clients inside your building, right? So how do you engage all of them, or how about if they all are, okay, I want to participate in the urban farming, right? But maybe I'm not sure whether how to cater all of the tenants if they show interest, right?
Yeah, it's a happy problem if it comes up. But that means we need to build more, and that's why we were still looking for different opportunities, in more of the rooftops, in competitive with the solar panels at the same time, So in one of the rooftop in one Taikoo place, this is basically a combined rooftop having a greenery and on top of it a solar panel, and actually the greenery help reduce the temperature of the solar panel surface that actually enhance the efficiency. And underneath, you can plant things. So there are some shade-tolerant plants. So it's a way that, in Hong Kong, it's such a congested place, you have to think innovatively of utilizing space. But definitely, we need to explore more space doing that. If more
Happy to hear that. Right.
So I think I just wanted to follow up also on what Patrick mentioned about carbon emissions and also I guess the science-based targets. And it's not just probably soil properties, but also a lot of buildings are looking to decarbonize and reduce their carbon footprint. So I think urban farming obviously has all of those benefits that we've mentioned. But slightly, I guess, a little bit more intangible at the moment. There isn't a way to quantify very accurately. So from your perspective, I think especially maybe from Derek and CF, especially when you go into reporting and you also speak with financiers and investors, what sort of metrics or what sort of measurements or tracking that urban farming needs in order to qualify for for being part of this sort of capturing the impact to the built environment, to your buildings? Because currently it's more like intangible, you kind of report it more in a qualitative form. But if we were to say, okay, look, we would like to include that as a means of reporting, how would you be challenged, I guess? Or how would you want to challenge the urban farming industry? How should we better report in order to fit that? Yeah.
I mean, in the bank, we also doing a lot of sustainability-linked financing. And very often in this sustainability-linked financing, we do set up KPIs for our client to sort of to meet. And very often these KPIs are related to, let's say, carbon emission, energy saving, water saving, and all that. I guess to really talk about reporting, I think if there is sort of a scientific way to really sort of to quantify, I mean, we're talking about how to quantify all this benefit, right? If we can have some scientific way to quantify the impact on this temperature reductions, carbon emission reduction and all that, I think that will actually help going back to the sustainability KPI, and that will actually, I think, will increase the receptiveness of having this type of project being part of a sustainable financing component. So I guess it's really to find a way to really to quantify all this aspect.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, have to be innovative, and let me try that see whether they accept it. I mean, when you get to the issue of climate change, and everyone is talking about net zero, right? So I think it's very obviously nature-based solutions. How greeneries can use as ecosystem services to support climate impacts. Absorbing carbon sequestration, and how it can create biodiversity value would be some opportunities actually to try to justify that the value. But of course, it's not very sophisticated in terms of accounting at the moment. But I think the scientific things are coming up, where we can more accurately try to estimate the carbon sequestration of the greenery projects. And also, in terms of biodiversity, we are already starting to measure the biodiversity value, and how would that actually, relate to the overall sustainability of the communities. I think that those are the two areas that, if you're under the green bond principles, sustainable farming practices is one of the eligible green projects under the framework. So although we haven't funded any project under our green finance framework, but we're very happy to explore DBS, of course, to explore any possibility to try to put up a project for that. Yeah.
For me, I don't think there's a requirement in the reporting, right? We just report what we have done in terms of the urban farm, right? So I think in future, I'm just wondering whether we can introduce a certification system for the urban farm, so that it's more easy for the decision maker to lend out the money, right? So that's my thought, right?
I actually wanted to ask Tammy a question because you mentioned that you're managing properties, so you work a lot with landlords. So I think from that perspective, because we were talking about like reporting and more like quantitative metrics. So from your experience, what do you think sort of landlords would look at? I think they're also, if you want to persuade them to implement an urban farming project in their property.
Yeah, I still think it is a tough one because I think it is something that's quite hard to measure. We would probably look at it as like a community perspective. But I think, if rooftop farms, there's a lot of green certification now for buildings. If rooftop farms kind of quantify and tick in terms of, getting points in terms of green building certification. We've just done some research recently with occupiers and landlords, and I think, I need to double check, 7 and 8 occupiers are actually willing to pay a bit more of a premium to actually be in a green certified building. So if, rooftop farms is going to be part of that, then that kind of really works well as well. We also surveyed employees as well, as in terms of what are you looking for in terms of sustainability. And I think it's 8 out of 10 employees want to be in buildings that have got plants, there's greenery, there's outside space, and there's rooftop gardens. So there's a need as well. So I think coming from occupiers, so I think, there's a need and a demand, and I think it will become a bit more prevalent as well because of that.
Is this something that you have also seen in your different properties? Did you also note? It's sort of like the demand for sort of like a well-being in the workspace. I think it's also growing very much in buildings. So I think as a kind of like a wrap-up question, I think we wanted to talk about the future, because I think we have gone through the experience. We are also like living this whole journey. What sort of, if we have like blue sky thinking, if like there's sky's the limit, there aren't sort of all these restrictions and challenges. Like, what would you like to see happen for urban farming? Yeah. Anyone can go. Yeah.
As I mentioned before, I'd like to see whether urban farm can be certified, right? This is one of the things. The second thing that I would like to think of is that from a building management perspective, right? Any way that can help to reduce the maintenance work, right? Whether we can rely on the IoT system or even the robotics, I'm not sure, right? But I think this can help to alleviate some of the workload from the building management staff, right, as they are very nervous about the introduction of additional thing that we would call extra workload to them, right? And somehow another thought is that from our experience, right, we use a bit more water than before, right? Is this better a system that can reuse the water or reduce the water consumption for the urban farm, right? So that's I think of, right?
I think from a bank perspective, actually, we want to finance more of this kind of project. Of course, the challenges are what I think we briefly discussed on the quantitative aspect of the farm in terms of how to attach some value, quantitative value to the project. So hopefully with all this certification and other more scientific way of measuring the benefit, it will become more commercially viable, meaning that the banks are more prepared to lend, meaning that actually there are more funding for this type of project, and then we'll see more projects.
Yeah, maybe, hello. I'm thinking about the project that we're doing in Miami. I mean, Miami itself is a city, a lot of floodings, and with the climate impacts going to take its toll in the future, I'm sure greenery and nature-based solutions will become one of the key topic, and it becomes so important to address it. So in Miami, where we are already doing something is to work with the governments, because the original plan for the Miami promenade, the government was proposing to build a seawall, basically bricks model seawall to actually protect the shoreline. But we actually work with an engineering consultant actually to repropose. Another solution is a nature-based solution where we involve a lot of mangrove trees and also some seagrass and oyster reef, and actually to rebuild the whole promenade to introduce this greenery. And at the same time, it helped protect the seashore at one hand when the flood comes in, and at the same time, it created a very nice place for people to get access to the seashore instead of a flood wall that was previously proposed. So it's not going to the result yet, but the government is already taking some of these considerations. So it's becoming also important as a private-public participation in the community to actually drive the agenda. I think greenery is going to be something we have to rely a lot more on when we addressing into the climate resilient future.
Yeah, I kind of echo what Patrick says, and I think Stefano talked about it. It's collaboration. We really need to see more partnerships of governments, of private, of public, and really looking at it from a community perspective and how that's going to bring value to the community as a whole, and not from a, I guess, financial kind of perspective. When we're looking at new development areas, the way that I think Swire has kind of revamped the whole Quarry Bay area, how do we actually implement that as part of that plan and be working together with all the different partners? I think that's really the key to kind of moving forward with kind of urban farming.
Thank you. I think for myself, I think one of the topics that also Stefano brought up is about regenerative agriculture and farming. And I think definitely it's our vision to be able to integrate that, because it's also contributing to better carbon sequestration. And if we can implement that into a building, that's going to be, it's going to move the needle in terms of, creating a more tangible impact and measurable impact to the building's performance. So I think that's kind of where I'm hoping that we can develop. So thank you so much, CF and Derek and Patrick and Tammy. I think we do have a few questions that come in, and we'd like to ask all of you. So one of them is, can you share your thoughts on how we can take the circular economy? So I think we talked a little bit about food waste. I think we haven't discussed that in detail. But can you share your thoughts on how we can take the circular economy within the built environment to the next level? And obviously, what would be the role of urban farming in this regard?
I give a step. Yes, this is a great question. I mean, circularity, it didn't come to our session, but it's part of it, right? So in the farm we do with DBS, it's obviously, all the soil conditioners is actually made of food waste collected from DBS offices. And beyond DBS, we also work a lot, to address this food waste problem, because the food waste is one of the majority of, waste that's collected in Hong Kong daily. So we have spent a lot of efforts to actually engage our tenants to collect the food waste they do. Up to now, we have 70% of tenant floor areas that are engaged in food collection. So a lot of these are actually going into soil conditioners, and some of those are going to the old park, the government organic waste recycling center, to reconvert it into biogas and soil conditioners and the site there. So I think these already, some of the food waste is going back into the economy in a circular way. So we have to do more, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So I think, thanks, Patrick. So we have a second question, is quite interesting as well, which is the role of the government. So from your perspective, what is the role of the government in promoting urban farming and obviously incentivizing different stakeholders to make it happen?
Let me try to answer, right? Right.
It's a tough question.
Right, I think the government already has some of the guidelines in introducing the minimum greenery areas for residential building, but not for commercial building, right? I understand that the government is also reviewing the GFA concession requirement, right? Maybe introducing a urban farm may be a good way in terms of environmental features that can be introduced to building for the developers to earn some of the GFA, right? That's my thought, right?
No. Okay. So thanks very much once again for this very insightful conversation. I think we can continue like for a long time after this. But I think it's really. I think for me, I felt like it was a very honest and very open kind of discussion. I think we also dealt with like some of the real issues quite head on. In terms of okay, how do you finance it? What's the ROI? And how do you make this a long-term thing? How do we sustain interest and as well as participation from different stakeholders? So I think I'm really glad that we got this conversation, and I hope we can continue this, moving forward. So I think just to sum up as well, I think we would like to first maybe check out the poll results. So thanks everyone for participating in the poll, and looks like it's quite interesting. So I'll recap the question. So what would be the topmost reason or factor for you to implement urban farming in your home, your office, or in your building? And we had 4 choices: to reduce your carbon footprint, to increase food resilience, to promote education and community, and to improve the building's performance. And the top one, and it's also the top, it's really the one that got the highest vote at 45% of all the votes, is to promote education and community. So I think this is something that all of you mentioned, like it's education for the tenants. So it's not just for the adults, but also for children to learn about where food comes from. And one fun fact about education, actually kids, there are some studies in US, they've shown that kids who grow their own vegetables, their own salad, they're 5 times more likely to eat vegetables. So yeah, so if your kids are not eating their broccoli, yeah, it's now's the right time to start planting. Yeah, great. And yeah, so I think what I would like to say really is that we've covered a lot of topics in today's sessions, in the presentations and in the panel. And one thing that stands out really is how diverse the benefits of urban farming is. And we are just literally scratching the surface when it comes to the potential of what you can achieve in a built environment. So I think what is key to take to the next level, to take urban farming to the next level, is strengthening of partnerships, collaborations, across different stakeholder groups, whether it's the architects, to building owners, to community partners, to financing as well. And I think one thing that we have quite a bit of work to do is in the measurement frameworks to really quantify and to capture all of these benefits that urban agriculture can bring to the city. So at this point, I think we would like to do a quick reminder as well. So all of you who have attended and signed up for this event, we are actually offering a farm tour to each of you. So if you have not signed up for the farm tour yet, please scan the QR code, or you'll get a reminder, and we'll send you an email with the link to that. And we'd love to get your feedback as well through a survey, and just so that maybe you can share some of your thoughts on what kind of topics we should cover in our next event. And so we'll hope to hear from you. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. It has been such a great pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you at our next event.